The Revelation Explained by F. G. Smith, Chapter 8, Part 1. We begin with the Book of Revelation, Chapter 8, verses 1 through 5. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer, and filled it with fire of the altar, and cast it into the earth. And there were voices, and thunderings, and lightnings, and an earthquake. We continue now with the commentary. The remainder of the book is embraced in the contents of the 7th seal. This may appear a little singular at first, being so much larger than the preceding ones, but it is easily understood when we consider the 6 as being a synopsis of the whole book, containing a history of the church apostate to the final consummation, and also the contemporaneous history of the true Church of God, while the 7th gives in detail the account of these great persecuting powers, civil and ecclesiastical, and the trials and triumphs of the saints in the New Jerusalem, developing more fully the events described under the 6. Upon the opening of the 7th seal, quote, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour, end quote. Whether this interval of silence is intended to be symbolical of any event on earth, I do not know. Neither have I seen any solution of the matter that is consistent or satisfactory. Some have supposed that it denoted a cessation of persecution among the Christians of earth. But if that were the case, then its opposite, quote, voices in heaven, end quote, would indicate seasons of persecution. There were several seasons of rest from persecution enjoyed by the early saints, and why should one period be singled out more than the rest, and be thus described? Besides, a half hour, according to prophetic time, would signify only about 1 week, a period too short certainly to take account of. Others have supposed that it signified the end of the world, and that heaven would then be deserted for a short time while the judgment was taking place. But the events following show that the end of the world is not here described. Therefore, it cannot have reference to such. Moreover, it is extremely doubtful whether silence in heaven would be a proper symbol of such an event. I do not perceive the analogy. In fact, such an interpretation of silence would be literal and not symbolic. Its explanation would seem to be found in connection with certain facts stated respecting the opening of the preceding seals, that voices followed them. When the first 4 seals were opened, John heard the voices of 4 beasts, quote, as it were a voice of thunder, end quote, And on the opening of the fifth, he heard the souls of the martyrs crying unto God. But when the seventh was opened, there was silence for a time. The contrast is noticeable, but whether it has any special signification, I am unable to say. Perhaps not. Before the sounding of the 7 trumpets, the acceptableness of the prayers of the saints is represented by an angel offering incense upon the golden altar which was before the throne. This scene was doubtless introduced to lend encouragement to God's children, that, although iniquity abounded on every side, and the judgments of God were poured out upon the people, still the prayers of the faithful few were acceptable in his sight, ascending before the throne like sweet incense from off the golden altar. After offering up the incense with the prayers of all saints, the same angel took his censer and filled it with fire from off the altar and cast it upon the earth, a token of God's avenging judgments. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. These, of course, were on earth, and symbolized the revolutions and convulsions now about to take place in the empire. End of part 1.